Joined by the fantastic Jamie Erdahl from the NFL Network headquarters right now. She just got off of Good Morning Football, hopping on the official Colts podcast with us. Jamie, I have to ask, with this on Sunday, you're going back to Minnesota. You get to
Yeah.
sound the Galler horn. First and foremost, just how unique is it for you to enjoy a Sunday game day with the duties you typically have on a Monday morning with Good Morning Football?
Oh my gosh. Well, that's a very loaded question because
Yeah.
in our roles, we like to have the utmost preparation. So there are moments and fleeting moments where I think, oh, I shouldn't do stuff like this. I got to stay and focus on all the games. I got to be prepared. But then at the same time, on GMFB, we love the stories. We love kind of interweaving ourselves into the NFL. And this personally, then to bring it back, going home to Minnesota and having this honor, which like when I teared up when I was invited, that was genuine. I had to make a real life decision on the show that day where I was like, am I going to let this happen? Am I going to cry? I really am going to cry. And I just couldn't say no. And the fact that Colts Vikings gets flexed into Sunday night, the intensity of the moment just goes through the roof. So I'm excited. I'm a lot nervous, and but I'm actually kind of lucky now. I get to watch the whole day of games and then go have this celebratory moment. So it's kind of the best of all worlds.
That's amazing. And for Colts fans who maybe haven't gotten to experience a game at
Mhm.
Minnesota, I've fortunately been there for two games. The experience, the identity of a Vikings game is so
Yeah.
very unique. The fan base really embraces all the skull chant and everything. Put in perspective exactly the sounding of the Galler horn and the significance of it.
Okay, so it's of Norwegian
Mhm.
origin, and it's like a war, going into
Yeah.
war, going into battle with each other, and really the horn is the end of it all. It's the culmination of the skull chant and the skull clap. So you got the guy on the drum who's down on the field, and he sets the
Mhm.
pace for the boom boom, and then everyone claps. And it is like a slow build. There's probably 10, 12, 13 of those claps before you get up there and it is, I mean, I think it started in 2008 or 9. I have to look back, but I remember it in the Metrodome. They recreated
Mhm.
it in when they had to play at the College Stadium for a year while US Bank was being built. And then they had it in London 2 weeks ago or a couple weeks back when I was there. So yes, they built a Yallerhorn and has it. They keep it in London now for the Minnesota fans that are in the UK. So
Incredible.
it's growing, and I mean, it originated over there, so I guess we can let them have it back too.
Would you say you were probably more nervous for your debut of Good Morning Football, or to sound the Yaller horn?
I like GMFB because it's constantly like, get it to Peter, get it to Kyle, get it to Akbar,
Yeah.
get it to anybody else who's on the show. This feels very much like I gotta stand up there and like you want it. It's like your wedding day almost. Like you want it to look a certain way, and I have it in my head, and I've been watching videos of other people do it, and then it's gonna be happening, and I'm like, am I doing it right? It's a lot. It is a lot.
Yeah.
It is fully. Yeah. It's on my mind.
I love that you're like breaking down film of other people
Well,
doing it.
and Kirk Cousins, when he was hurt last year, he popped
Yeah.
up there on Sunday Night Football and did it and took his damn shirt off with his kid. I'm like, how am I supposed to, I'm not going to do that? How am I supposed to match that? So there's just so much pressure. I'm very thrilled and I'm also a little bit scared.
Oh my, I can't wait to be there. I'm so excited. I'll be
I'm
there on
so
our
glad.
sideline. So hopefully get to see
Good.
you
Yes.
beforehand. Obviously, a lot going on with both of these teams, but I really want to focus mostly on your experience. I know you take such
Oh,
great pride in your preparation for each and every game, just like you do when you're back there and you have these duties of getting everybody ready for the game, sounding
yeah.
the horn and all. How much are you doing post? Like, how much self scout do you do in terms of watching things back, watching your own game tape, maybe after a show? Is that something you guys do as a team? Do you do it individually?
So definitely it's done individually unless it's something egregious, which our show is so what I love about it is we kind of embrace errors, we embrace, hiccup moments and we oftentimes lean into them and it becomes content for us. For example, I'm watching actually a segment back, you're behind your face right now, and we had coach of the year predictions and we were talking about how Dan Campbell, could he be a coach of the year contender? And I had picked Matt LaFleur to start the season. So we have this full screen up right now and like just my face is highlighted. The guys are in like the darkness, which is so strange. And this just looks really awkward on TV. And so earlier today, I was like, and my pick is casting a shadow on the rest of you fools. Like it just I think other productions they might stress out, like, get that graphic off, it looks terrible. But like we just do so much TV here and we love all of our little, imperfections that we make it work. To your point though, a little bit of a perfectionist just from the chair that I sit in. If I feel like something could have gone better, I always kind of replay the show in my head as the day goes through. I'll go back and watch certain things that I think I could have phrased differently or set someone up differently. But it's a daily game that we play. We don't just have a show on Sundays, so you also have to sharpen the skill of letting things go.
I think that viewers, for the most part, also appreciate a little peek behind the curtain when things don't go perfectly right because it's a little bit more relatable and you're
Yeah,
almost letting people in on the joke. And I think
totally.
that's one of the beautiful things about the dynamic of Good Morning Football is that it doesn't have to be perfectly produced for it to work because of the dynamic that you guys all have at the breakfast table.
Yes, I totally agree. We had a segment yesterday where Arnold Schwarzenegger had a comment about Miles Garrett Halloween costume, and we put up the tweet that Arnold had, and it said 10 out of 10, no notes. And like we were supposed to respond to the tweet, and instead Kyle Brandt had beef with the fact that like that's not Arnold. He doesn't tweet like that. Like why would a 70-plus-year-old man tweet no notes given? Like, and it's just like always the left turn to your point into like this, let's just say what we're all actually thinking. And of course, Kyle is the best at it on our show.
Thank goodness that you can roll with those things. And that's probably a credit to your long tenure as a sideline reporter, where
Yeah.
there's so many things that are happening impromptu that it can't always be scripted. And you have to be able to respond in a moment's notice and have a witty comeback or have a good response or
Yes.
be able to bounce to the next thing. So it's really the blend of your entire background and your culmination being in that seat.
Yeah, that's probably a really good way to explain it. Although I'll tell you, I was a sideline reporter for 8 years, and I still do it a little bit for
Yeah.
international. Um, but when I see moments now, to your point, that I can see flip on a dime like that, it makes me so grateful that I'm not the one running across the field to get the team that you didn't think was going to happen. I think of Tracy Wolfson this weekend with CBS and the Hail Mary in Washington. I'm like, I wonder where she was standing. I wonder who she was getting ready to interview. She was not ready for that. Just totally panicked. So there are moments where I'm kind of relieved that I just get to be in the friendly confines of the studio.
You guys are such a team. And I think about within the Colts locker room, there are certain guys that we talk about you level up to that kind of raise
Yeah.
that bar. A guy like DeForest Buckner,
Yeah.
Zaire Franklin, Quentin Nelson, different guys across the locker room. Who is it at that table that you feel like, okay, I'm
Mm.
leveling up my game. I'm stepping up because I know that he's always bringing it. Or maybe
Mhm.
it's different guys in different situations.
So to your point, to circle back to what you said earlier about do I self-scout? It's my job, I would think, to kind of what I like to say, set the table and make sure the napkins are right and the forks are in the right spot. And just so when we go to have a conversation about anything in the NFL, I'll take you guys this week, for example. We've been talking a lot about Anthony Richardson, and every time we bring it up, you got to make sure people understand. Listen, it was the third quarter. He had run twice before this, and just make sure we have the facts down, and then we go from there. Anytime Peter Schrager comes on and is like, okay, little context here. After I've already teed it up, I go, dang it, I didn't like I must not have done it exactly up to Peter's standard. And so that's to answer your question. It's for me, it's Schrags because to me he is like NFL context PhD. And if I've done it the right way that I'm supposed to in terms of any conversation we're going to have, just make sure everyone knows the facts and then, tee the ball up, then he doesn't have to do that. He doesn't, which that's him picking me up on the back end. But if he does do it, I'm kind of like, oh, and so I'll watch that back and I'll say, like, what did he say that I didn't, that I need to, make sure I get that information. And so Schrags is what I like to call him is like our editorial North Star. Like he always has a
Hmm.
beat on the direction we should be going in, what we're talking about, what we haven't talked about, and just really keeping us on the straight and narrow.
That's great though for him as a teammate though, because there are situations that I'm sure he might be able to add additional context maybe to
Yeah.
something you're setting up. So as much responsibility as you're shouldering, you also know that everyone is there sharing in that as well and willing to pick you up.
Exactly. And there are some, I know for one, like I could never be a Colin Coward. Like I just
Mm.
can't talk for like X amount of minutes. It just I like that. And I have a time clock in my head, I feel like of about 47, 50 seconds where all of a sudden it's like, I'm sick of hearing my own voice. Like I gotta get moving through this segment. So, because sometimes it does take some setup and whatnot, but mostly I want to kick the ball around. I want to make sure everyone is prepared and ready and put in the best spot to share whatever they want to say that day.
Well, that's probably because that's about the time you get as a sideline report too.
Yeah,
It's like, okay, you
yeah,
have
that's true.
30 to 45
Yeah.
seconds to set
Yep.
do an entire story and
Yep.
then it's on to the next thing. So
Yeah.
that internal clock is emblazoned of a decade nearly of doing that, I'm sure.
That's exactly right. The pressures of getting your story in before the snap comes, like still is one that haunts me. And you turn around, like you're on camera. This is real inside baseball now, between you and I. You turn around, you're like watching the ball, the center, and then maybe the official comes over and hovers. You're like, great, I got 5 more seconds. I'm gonna keep telling my story. So it's so true. And lest you talk over a snap, like just don't, God forbid, can't do it. Like, hey,
Cardinal
next
sin.
time, producer, next time, don't talk over game action. It's like, okay, we get it.
Okay, this is relatively new that the show has been based out of LA. You were, of course,
Yeah,
their New York headquarters. Everyone is now there in LA.
yeah.
What is your daily wake up? It has to be like 3 a.m. or so to get in there to
Yeah,
be on air on the East Coast time when you're operating on the West Coast.
it's three, but I have 3 kids, 5 and under. So like what sleep is kind of all relative at this point. Napping is a great skill to have as a grown adult. Yeah, it's 3. It's honestly no big deal. It's like we're on 5 to 9. We just chop it up about the games and we move on to the next week. And like the gift to the show is when we are in the thick of the season and it's just the wheel that keeps on turning and we don't stop talking about things. And you can always reflect back. You can always spin it forward. You can spin it 2 weeks forward. You got the trade deadline. You got international games. There's always something to talk about. It's really not as hard as people think it might be. 5 to 9, it's no big deal.
Will your family get to go with you this weekend? Are you making a little
Yeah,
bit of
we are gonna bring
a
because my husband's from Minnesota too. Thank you for asking. Yeah, all the kids are gonna come. I mean, when it got shifted to a night game, now we got to make a couple adjustments. Maybe they're not gonna come to the actual game, but we have so much family in Minnesota, and my husband's friends now. They like I think ticket sales if they have like minute to minute, like after I got the invite. My husband's buddies, I swear, it was like whoosh, they all were like, "We're all in the 18th row of whatever section they want to come." So I'm so excited, and I feel so lucky to be there.
you're gonna have your own little hype squad.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. Okay, just a couple more minutes, then I know you've got to get on with the rest of your duties. For those who might be in Minneapolis this weekend,
Yeah,
maybe Colts fans who are traveling to the game, you have all day to enjoy
yeah.
downtown. That's one of the beautiful things, the stadium, the location where it
Mhm,
is. It's one
mhm,
of my favorite atmospheres
mhm.
in, the entire league. What
Yep.
should people do, around downtown as they're getting ready
Yes.
for
Yep.
game day?
Okay, so there's a really cool boutique hotel called Hewing Hotel. And then there's an avenue that stretches, I think it's 4th Avenue, across Hewing Hotel. And just all the way down that way, there's all these original, Smack Shack is a really fun restaurant. There's all these little, the Loop is a really like a divey bar, but it's really fun to go to. So you could go down that way by the Hewing Hotel, or you could cross the bridge into like North Minneapolis kind of and go on like Nicollet Island and there's this event place called Machine Shop. There's all these bars and restaurants just across the bridge. So the bridge is very famous because the river runs right through Minneapolis. So if you cross the bridge, it's always very like scenic. There's mills that sit right into Minneapolis. And then right around by the stadium, there's awesome places too. My gosh. And I think there's like an Usher concert happening that night. And
Oh,
I heard at Target Center, and then I heard some people were saying that the Maple Leafs are playing the Wild in the NHL that night, and the I don't know if that game got shifted. So like it is going to be a crazy day in Minneapolis on Sunday. So I think anywhere you go, it's going to be awesome. But if I had to go to one place, I would go to Smack Shack.
okay, awesome. It kind of sounds like the whole reason we have to get out of Indianapolis this weekend because Taylor Swift is taking over Lucas Oil Stadium for three
Yes.
consecutive nights. So it's similarly where
Yeah.
like downtown Indy
Yeah.
is just going to be
It's actually probably
overtaken.
nice for you guys that it got moved to Sunday night because it like best you just stay out of town until the Swifties
Just
have like fully departed. Yeah.
Exactly. So will
Yeah.
you have to get out of the game and go straight back to LA, or like how does
No,
that
I'm
work with
gonna do
Monday
the
morning
show. The
GMFB?
Vikings are being the Vikings, similar to I know what the Colts would do if it were the same. They're being great hosts. I'm actually gonna do the show from Minnesota at the Vikings facility on Friday morning and Monday morning. So it's kind of like be like a little post-mortem and like a build up, and hopefully we get like a player or two to stop by. So yeah, it was gonna be like a whole Minnesota weekend. And I kind of wish they were still undefeated. I don't feel great about the fact that they've dropped 2 games since they invited me to do this, but we're gonna get things back on track.
Well, I hope that one of the guys you get on set is Stefan Gilmore because he was one of my
Really long.
favorite guys in the time that we had Gilly Lock here. So I very much look forward. He's one who I can't wait to see on Sunday. I just don't hope he doesn't have too good of a game. I'm like,
I hear
yeah,
that.
like
Yeah.
so good to see you,
Yeah.
but yeah, don't be too good today.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Jason McCourty and Stefan Gilmar are very close. So like we always, heard Gilly Lock when last 2 years. So
yeah.
it would be great to see all those guys. But I'm excited about it. And who knows what's gonna end up happening with you guys all week.
Yeah, I know. Well, certainly the news will come out. We'll have a lot to cover over the course of the
Yes.
week. You will have a lot to cover on Good Morning Football. Jamie, thank you so much for taking the time. Look forward to seeing you on Sunday in
I
Minnesota.
know. Can't wait to catch up. Really. It's so good to see you.